I came to my husband's office with our daughter and his migraine meds, but his receptionist whispered, "Ma'am, you shouldn't go upstairs." The receptionist looked at my 5-year-old daughter, then at the medicine bag in my hand, and finally toward the elevators. Then she leaned closer and whispered, "Mrs. Morales, please don't go upstairs." I smiled because I thought she was joking. "I'm just taking my husband his migraine medicine. He called me this morning." The receptionist swallowed hard. "He didn't tell you?" "Tell me what?" She glanced toward the hallway behind her. "Your husband isn't alone." My fingers tightened around my daughter's hand. Her name was Lucia, and she was wearing the pink sweater her father had bought her for her birthday. She had spent the entire drive talking about how excited she was to see Daddy's office. I had spent the drive worrying about his headache. I never imagined I would leave that building questioning my entire marriage. My husband, Alejandro Morales, was a senior financial executive. For 8 years, his office had practically been a second home. I knew the security guards. I knew which elevator was faster. I even knew where he kept the coffee machine. That morning, Alejandro had called me before work. "Clara, my migraine is terrible. I forgot my medication on the kitchen counter. You want me to bring it?" There had been a pause. "If you don't mind?" Of course I didn't mind. I packed his prescription, a bottle of water, and the chicken soup I'd made the night before. Lucia begged to come. Daddy promised he'd show me his big chair. So we went. And 10 minutes later, his receptionist told me not to go upstairs. I looked at her name tag. Sophia. "Sophia, what exactly did Alejandro tell you?" Her eyes became glossy. "He said if you came, I should call him first. Then call him." She reached for the phone. It rang upstairs. Once, twice, 3 times. No answer. Lucia tugged my sleeve. "Mommy, can we see Daddy now?" I looked at her innocent face. Then I looked at the elevator. Something inside me whispered that I should leave. But another part of me, the wife who had spent 8 years believing her husband, needed an answer. "Sophia," I said quietly. "Who was upstairs with him?" She hesitated. "A woman." My stomach dropped. "Who?" "I don't know. That was a lie. I could see it immediately." "Sophia?" She lowered her voice. "Her name is Valeria Cruz." The name meant nothing to me, but the way Sophia said it did. I took Lucia back to the car. I didn't cry. Not yet. I called Alejandro, straight to voicemail. Again. Voicemail. Then I called my older sister, Isabella. "I need you to do something for me," I said. "What happened?" "Find out everything you can about Valeria Cruz." Isabella was silent for 3 seconds. Then she said, "I'll call you back." 20 minutes later, my phone rang. Her voice sounded different. "Clara, are you sitting down?" "Yes." "Valeria isn't just some woman from his office." My heart began pounding. She was Alejandro's fiancée. I couldn't breathe. "What?" "They were engaged 12 years ago." I stared through the windshield. Alejandro had never told me that. Not once. Isabella continued. "They broke up when she moved abroad. She returned 6 months ago." 6 months. Exactly when Alejandro's behavior had changed. The late nights, the sudden business trips, the password changes, the phone he never left unattended. I suddenly remembered something from 3 months earlier. I had asked him why he'd started wearing his old silver watch again. He'd said, "I found it in a drawer." Now I wondered who had given it to him. That evening, Alejandro finally came home. He walked through the door carrying flowers. "I'm sorry about this morning." I stared at him. "Who is Valeria?" The flowers slipped slightly in his hand. That tiny movement told me everything. He sat down. "Clara, it's complicated." "No," I shook my head. "Complicated is forgetting an anniversary. Complicated is arguing about money. You don't get to call this complicated." Lucia came running from the living room. "Daddy!" Alejandro immediately smiled. He picked her up, and for a moment I hated myself for what I was thinking. Because Lucia loved him. She didn't know about Valeria. She didn't know about the secrets. She only knew that Daddy always made funny faces when she asked for pancakes. I waited until she went upstairs, then I placed an envelope on the table. Alejandro looked at it. "What is that?" "Open it." Inside were photographs. Not of him cheating, something worse. Bank transfers, company documents, messages between Valeria and Alejandro, and one document that made his face turn completely white. A purchase agreement for a house. The buyer was Alejandro Morales. The co-owner was Valeria Cruz. The purchase date was 3 months earlier. "You bought a house with her?" Alejandro closed his eyes. "I was going to tell you." "When?" He didn't answer. I stood up. "No more explanations. Clara, please. I looked at him for a long moment. I brought you your medicine because I thought your headache was the worst thing you had to deal with today. I picked up my coat. I was wrong. The next morning, I moved Lucia and myself into my mother's house, but I didn't file for divorce immediately. I did something else. I hired an attorney. And Isabella helped me uncover the truth. The house wasn't the only secret. Alejandro had been transferring money from our joint investment account into a private company connected to Valeria. He had planned to leave. He had already started building another life. He simply hadn't had the courage to tell me. 3 months later, the divorce was finalized. Alejandro lost the house, he lost his position at the company, and he lost something much more important. Lucia stopped asking when Daddy was coming home. Not because I taught her to hate him, I never did. I simply stopped protecting Alejandro from the consequences of his choices. One Sunday morning, Lucia and I sat on our new apartment balcony. She was drawing a picture. "What are you making?" I asked. "Our family," I smiled. "Who's that?" "Me. And that's Mommy." She pointed to another figure. "And that's Daddy?" She shook her head. "No." "Who is it?" She smiled. "That's the future." I laughed for the first time in months. Then she placed the picture in my lap. It showed 2 people holding hands beneath a giant yellow sun. No broken hearts, no angry faces, just 2 people walking forward. I looked at my daughter. She had no idea how much she had saved me. I had gone to Alejandro's office that morning carrying his migraine medicine. I thought I was going there to help my husband feel better. Instead, I discovered the truth. And sometimes the truth hurts so badly that you think it has destroyed your life. But sometimes, the truth is the thing that finally gives you your life back.